which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma pujita kaitravotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va parer ishvaraha sadyo hridi avarudyate cha kriti bihi sususubhistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam Pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam Muhur ahor rasika bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, even though its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, text number 30. 28. Yeah. Thereupon that man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men stopped speaking, and being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who stood before him, four-handed, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined. Well, we know that Krishna on the chariot had two arms. But because Bhisma knew that Krishna in his two-armed form is the origin of everything, he also said he's the origin of the first Narayana. But his preference was Narayana. So we see some people prefer Lord Rama, some people prefer Lord Vishnu, some people prefer Narayana, some people prefer Narasinghadev, you see. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's all the same person. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the momentous hour of leaving his material body, Bhismadeva set the glorious example concerning the important function of the human form of life. The subject matter which attracts the dying man becomes the beginning of his next life. Therefore, if one is absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, he is sure to go back to Godhead without any doubt. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.5 to 15. Yes. And now Prabhupada's going to read the translation. And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me, alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Antakalik jamameva smanam mukvakalivanam saprayati samad bhavam yatinastri atra samsayaha. Okay, it's a very famous verse. And he says, remembering me alone. In other words, it's not that one remembers Guru Brahma, Guru Shiva, Guru Vishnu. As every kid that goes to a Hindu temple, they learn this mantra. And they think that, and they're taught that, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu are all on the same level, which is not true. Because Bhrigu Muni proved that Vishnu is transcendently situated, whereas Brahma and Shiva are slightly tinged by passion or ignorance. The subject matter which attracts the dying man becomes the beginning of his next life. Therefore, if one is absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, he is sure to go back to Godhead without any doubt. And 6, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fear. Yam yam vapis. And then 7, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Okay. And then 8, he who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. And 9, one should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person, and he is luminous like the sun, and being transcendental is beyond this material nature. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tiyajatan tekalivanam tam tam ivaitikонteya satatad bhava bhavitaha. And then tasmat sarve sukale sumam anusmara yudhyacha mayarpita manobadir yomad mam evaisasya samsaya. And then abhyasa yogyutena chetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partana chintayam. And then kavim puranam anusasitaram anor aniyam sam anusmaridya sarvasya dataram achintya rupam aditya varnam tamasa parastat. These are all wonderful verses to know. And then 10, one who at the time of death fixes his life hair between the eyebrows and in full devotion engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prayanakale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bruvor madhye pranam avesha samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. So these are all wonderful verses. Then 11, persons absorbed in the Vedas who utter Omkara and who are great sages in the renounced order enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. And then the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. For one who remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Prita, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Shri Bhismadeva attained the perfection of quitting his body at will, and was fortunate enough to have Lord Krishna, the object of his attention, personally present at the time of death. He therefore fixed his open eyes upon him. He wanted to see Sri Krishna for a long time out of his spontaneous love for him. Because he was a pure devotee, he had very little to do with the detailed performance of yogic principles. Simple bhakti yoga is enough to bring about perfection. Therefore, the ardent desire of Bhismadeva was to see the person of Lord Krishna, the most lovable object, and by the grace of the Lord, Shri Bhismadeva had this opportunity at the last stage of his breathing. So, even though verses 10, 11, 12, 13 explain what you would call Jnana Yoga and Astanga Yoga. However, Prabhupada's point is that you don't have to be an expert in these different, very difficult yoga practices. Therefore he says, simple bhakti yoga is enough to bring about perfection. Therefore, the ardent desire of Bhismadeva was to see the person of Lord Krishna, the most lovable object, and by the grace of the Lord, Shri Bhismadeva had this opportunity at the last stage of his breathing. So if we've been a sincere devotee all our life, or even part of our life, then instead of going through all this difficult, arduous yoga practice, one simply by chanting Hare Krishna, taking prasadam, going on Sankirtan, preaching, worshipping the deity, associating with devotees, regularly hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagvatam, one can see Krishna at the moment of death. In fact, one doesn't want to see anything else. So Prabhupada says in the purport to text 10, he said, in this verse it is clearly stated that at the time of death the mind must be fixed in devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those practiced in yoga, it is recommended that they raise the life force between the eyebrows to the Agna Chakra. The practice of Sat Chakra Yoga, involving meditation on the 6 chakras, is suggested here. A pure devotee does not practice such yoga. Here it is. A pure devotee does not practice such yoga. But because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, at death he can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his grace, by Lord's mercy. This is explained in verse 14. So that's why I said, 10, 11, 12, 13, they're explaining either Jnana Yoga or Astanga Yoga, mystic yoga. But actually, text 14 is the most important. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nitya saha tasyaham surlabha parta nitya yuktasya yogina. For one who always remembers me without deviation. Now, how do you always remember Krishna without deviation? Chant Hare Krishna. Very simple. You don't have to put your foot behind your left ear, your right foot behind your left ear, and your left foot behind your right ear, and do all these, breathing like this and breathing like that, and Prabhu, you know all those things, right? Yeah. That's to attract the people to the temple. Once they're in the door, at least they have some punya, right? Like the other teacher, there's another teacher, right? What's his name? Well, anyway, that I think Srinivas, was it his son that died? Yeah, his son that died. So they invited me to the house, And I explained, I said, look, you're a yoga teacher, right? You're teaching other people yoga. How come you couldn't save your own kid, right? I said that yoga, the real yoga is Krishna consciousness. It's not, but, I tried to explain to him, it's the yoga practice you're doing, the hatha yoga practice, and so it's not for health. It's to calm down the mind and the body so you can focus your mind on Krishna. But you can do that by chanting Hare Krishna. Now, we're not against anything, but what we're against is misrepresentations. So one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha. So that this verse, 8:14, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So this is an extremely important verse in Bhagavad Gita. Anyanya cheta satatam yomam smarati nitya saha tasyam surlabha partha nityayuktasya yogina. Prabhupada explains, this verse especially describes the final destination attained by the unalloyed devotees who serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhakti Yoga. Previous verses have mentioned 4 different kinds of devotees: the distressed, the inquisitive, those who seek material gain, and the speculative philosophers. Different processes of liberation have also been described: karma yoga, jnana yoga, and hatha yoga. The principles of these yoga systems have some bhakti added, but this verse particularly mentions pure bhakti yoga without any mixture of jnana, karma, and hatha. So when you say this karma, jnana, hatha have some bhakti added, no, it's not a fact today. They don't add some bhakti anymore. They just talk about the body and controlling the body, and you have good health, or you have better sense gratification, or whatever. They're not talking about, ultimate yoga is meditating on Krishna. They don't talk about that. So, as indicated in the word ananya cheta, in pure bhakti yoga, the devotee desires nothing but Krishna. So, Bhismadevan is an example of that, right? He didn't desire anything. See, and it's very important that a person, before they die, at least the last 3 months, they should be totally detached from everything else and just focus on meditating on the Lord, just like Bhismadeva did. And now we're going to hear him glorify Krishna in a whole slew of verses, which means that he knew exactly who Krishna is. So then it says, a pure devotee does not desire promotion to heavenly planets, nor does he seek oneness with the Brahmajyoti, or salvation or liberation from material entanglement. A pure devotee does not desire anything, meaning anything material. Of course, he has desires to please Krishna, but he doesn't desire anything material. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pure devotee is called niskama, which means he has no desire for self-interest. Perfect peace belongs to him alone, not to them who strive for personal gain. Whereas a jnana yogi, karma yogi, or hatha yogi has his own selfish interests, a perfect devotee has no desire other than to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord says that for anyone who is unflinchingly devoted to him, he, meaning Krishna, is easy to obtain. A pure devotee always engages in devotional service to Krishna in one of his various personal features. Krishna has various plenary expansions and incarnations, such as Rama and Nishinga, and a devotee can choose to fix his mind in loving service to any of these transcendental forms of the Supreme Lord. So that's the explanation why Bhisma Pitamaha, he preferred to see Lord Narayan, the four-armed form of Krishna. And here it says that a pure devotee always engages in devotional service to Krishna in one of his various personal features. Krishna has various plenary expansions and incarnations, such as Rama and Nrsimha. And a devotee can choose to fix his mind in loving service to any of these transcendental forms of the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee meets with none of the problems that plague the practitioners of other yogas. Bhakti yoga is very simple and pure and easy to perform. One can begin simply by chanting Hare Krishna. The Lord is merciful to all, but as we have already explained, he is especially inclined toward those who always serve him without deviation. The Lord helps such devotees in various ways, as stated in the Vedas, Katha Upanishad 1.2.23. Yam evaisa vrinute tena labhyas tasyaisa atma vrivinute tanam swam. One who is fully surrendered and engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord can understand the Supreme Lord as he is. And as stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.10, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. The Lord gives such a devotee sufficient intelligence so that ultimately the devotee can attain him in his spiritual kingdom. So here it's saying that one who's always engaged and fully surrendered one is fully surrendered and engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Lord can understand the Supreme Lord as he is. And then there's more information that one who is completely surrendered and always engaged, the Lord gives him the intelligence by which he can come to him and the knowledge. The special qualification of pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavana or some holy town where the Lord lived. But a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the atmosphere of Vrindavana by his devotional service. It was Sri Advaita who told Lord Chaitanya, wherever you are, O Lord, there is Vrindavana. As indicated by the words Satatam and Nitya Saha, which means always, regularly, or every day, a pure devotee constantly remembers Krishna and meditates upon him. These are qualifications of the pure devotee for whom the Lord is most easily attainable. Bhakti Yoga is the system that the Gita recommends above all others. Generally, the Bhakti yogis are engaged in 5 different ways. Santa Bhakta, engaged in devotional service and neutrality. Dasya Bhakta, engaged in devotional service as servant. Sakya Bhakta, engaged as friend. Vatsalya Bhakta, engaged as parent. And Madhurya Bhakta, engaged as conjugal lover of the Supreme Lord. In any of these ways, the pure devotee is always constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord and cannot forget the Supreme Lord. And so for him, the Lord is easily attained. A pure devotee cannot forget the Supreme Lord for a moment, and similarly, the Supreme Lord cannot forget his pure devotee for a moment. This is the great blessing of the Krishna consciousness process of chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so this is the real message of this 8th chapter. And we can see how there's a perfect correspondence between Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagvatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments, confessions? No confessions. Haribol. Yes.
You were talking about Vishnu Pitama, even though he knows Krishna is 200, but his desire is to see 400 Krishna, Narayan.
Yes.
So my question is the rasa is different of Vishnu Pitama. He wanted to see Krishna beforehand, Narayan.
That's what he saw when Krishna was running toward him with the wheel. That's because he has what's called a chivalric rasa with the Lord. It's not conjugal, it's not parental, it's not friendship. Well, of course, he's a friend of the Lord, but well-wisher. But he had that type of relationship.
Is it like a Vasudeva Krishna, four-handed man?
Yes.
To the Vasudeva?
Yes, whenever Krishna appears, all the other incarnations are within him. So he can manifest any of them at any time. However, there's another point that should be understood. That is, so when it says Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto, fix your mind on Krishna, so 1865, the last paragraph of that purport says, these words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge, and that is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna. Is that what you wanted to hear?
I had the same question because there are many places where Prabhupada writes we can meditate on any form, and then this particular kind of ultimate verse in Bhagavad Gita is saying that no, only Krishna form, original form.
That doesn't preclude anyone from,
No, of course.
yeah. So like for example, there's the form of Balaji. Now, Balaji is also called Govinda because, he took an axe right in the forehead to protect the cow. So therefore he's also called Govinda. And Prabhupada said that Balaji means Bala Krishna. He's actually Krishna. But yet, if you go to Tirupati, he's four-armed because he's actually Shirodakshaya Vishnu. But Shirodakshaya Vishnu is the source of all incarnations in the material world. And it's actually a plenary expansion of Krishna. So, you have, in the Vaishnava tradition, you have Sri Vaishnavas, you have the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, you have the followers of Nimbarka Swami and the followers of, and the Rudra Sampradaya, which includes Vallabhacharya and his movement. They're in the Rudra Sampradaya. And then the followers of Nimbarka Swami. So, these are all four bona fide sampradayas, Vaishnava sampradayas. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, if you go to Yogapit Temple, you'll see he has all four of those acharyas. Because he wanted also to unite all the Vaishnavas. Right? And so we can't say, oh, no, you can't worship Balaji, or you can't worship Rama. You can't, because they're all bona fide expansions of the Lord. But for the devotees who are in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, especially followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's incarnation of Radha and Krishna, it's recommended for us to meditate always on Krishna's original form that was manifested to Arjuna on the chariot. Now, if you go to Delhi, the name of our temple there is Radha Parthasarathi. So there was this Narayan Maharaj. He, in a veiled way, he criticized that. He said, "What is this, Radha Parthasarathi? There's no such thing as Radha Parthasarathi. Radharani is not on the chariot." That may be true, but the form that was on the chariot was the original form of Krishna. See? And there's no difference between Krishna on the chariot and Krishna dancing in the Rasa Lila dance. You see? So this Radha Parthasarati is valid. It's not something bogus. So some people were trying to imply that there's something bogus about it. You know? And that's why he says here that one should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Well, what was that form present? You know, it's not exactly Radha and Krishna and the Rasa Lila dance. It's Krishna, but that's his original Shamsundar form. See? So a lot of things, you know, it's easy to get caught up in controversies. That's why Prabhupada said we shouldn't hear from anybody else. We should, you know, he was not pleased that his devotees were going to hear lectures by some of his godbrothers, because he said if you hear one word different, it'll cause havoc, and that's what happened. See? But that doesn't mean we can't unite Vaishnavas and work cooperatively with other Vaishnavas, you know. But that, because that's what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was trying to do, and that's what Ramanujacharya was trying to do. Before Ramanujacharya, all the Alvars prayers and everything was all in Tamil. There was no Sanskrit. They didn't use Sanskrit at all. It's only when he started writing books in Sanskrit. And why did he do that? Because he wanted to connect with the other Vaishnava Sampradayas. See, and he wanted to show that there is a direct link between the Sri Vaishnavas and the other Vaishnava Sampradayas. So there's a lot of things, you know, when there's less intelligence, or there's less knowledge, there's controversies. When there's more knowledge, there's accommodation so that everyone can work together. But without diluting or in any way undermining the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. Yeah. So that's, and then you'll see in Prabhupada's writing, he's quoting Ramanujacharya, he's quoting Yamunacharya, he's quoting Kulashikara Swami. These are all Sri Vaishnava saints. So he's not, and he says these are our acharyas also. Right? Otherwise he wouldn't quote them. And he also quotes Sridhar Swami. Sridhar Swami is in the Rudra Sampradaya. Huh? Sridhar Swami? I don't know. Maybe you know. But he's in the Rudra Sampradaya. Now that doesn't mean he's like the worshippers of Shiva. Rudra Sampradaya is a bona fide Vaishnava Sampradaya, right? And they don't have the same understanding as like Asad Guru and other people who so-called are worshippers of Shiva. They're not actually worshippers of Shiva. So, you know, there is a bona fide Rudra Sampradaya, and Vallabhacharya is in that, and I'm pretty sure Sridhar Swami is also in that Sampradaya. Yeah. Haribol, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.